It's always great when you have someone that's spent a few years working with Congress, working with the Senate Committee on Finance, being a litigator, and making her way as senior director of financial regulation for the Center for American Progress. With us this morning is Alexandra, also known as Alex Thornton. Good morning, Alex, and welcome to the show.
Good morning. It's great to be here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being with us this morning. I was kind of tipping my hat to you in terms of your work in the past. You spent 10 years with the Senate Committee on Finance, but now as a senior director with the Center for American Progress, you've really been one of the champions that's out there talking about, why we've got to do a better job in making sure that, for lack of better words, our dollars are going in the right direction and being used for the right efforts.
That's right. And I think people need to understand what's going on in the federal government right now, because that's your tax dollars that have paid for a lot of the protections that Americans have. And I'm so glad that you're highlighting this. I really am.
Well, you are, and I say this when we have a person, and we've had other folks from the center with us, and we appreciate you guys partnering with us and having the time to come on the show. But what I'd like you to do is, a lot of times people can get caught not knowing what a group does or what a person does within a group. Take a moment, Alex, and let our listeners know throughout the country what your role as senior director of financial regulation really means, and what are some of the things that you focus on in your day-to-day efforts.
Sure. Happy to. Basically, I follow what's going on with all of the financial regulatory agencies. It's my job to understand what the different agencies do, and also to think about how they can do that better, and to work, oftentimes communicate with members of Congress to make them more informed, because they have a lot that they cover, and so it's helpful to them to have people who can analyze and inform them and educate for them about the different agencies and what they do, and how they're protecting Americans. They want to be informed too when they go back and talk with their constituents. And so we also analyze legislation that's proposed by the other side to help them understand what it actually does, and the harms that it might cause, or provisions that are good where there's the ability to do something on a bipartisan basis. But our goal is to make sure, as much as we can, as much as we have any impact on things, to make sure that what's passed by Congress and what Congress does is promoting an inclusive economy, one that works for all Americans.
Can you, and thank you for that, Alex, are you able to, if you see in terms of your review of legislation, of policy, can you bring forward, and you're a litigator, a former litigator, but can you bring forward anything to Congress to say, hey, wait a minute, you guys need to change this, or this is not right, or even to use the word fair? Can you take that to Congress and say, you guys need to fix this?
Absolutely. We regularly communicate with members of Congress to say, here's an idea for how you can make things better. We're constantly thinking ahead. We may not be in a governing moment right now, but there will come a day when we are in a governing moment. And we want to be prepared to hit the ground running, just as obviously Trump did when he came in a few weeks ago.
Talk to me about the IGs being cut and what that means when it comes to financial regulation.
Oh, well, the IGs are, as you know, in pretty much every agency, they are independent offices that are there to look at what the agency does to make sure that it is functioning in an appropriate manner. And to me, it's a sign. It's a sign that President Trump and his allies did not want anybody to be watching what they were doing when they sent Musk in to make all these cuts and do all these things that he's doing.
So what do you, and because this is a question that a lot of people have asked me personally on the show, via social media, Richard, what can we do? I mean, he's there, not just Trump, but Musk, kind of, hand-holding through this chaos. And so that's a question that I get asked a lot, and I don't have a conclusive answer. I'm not an attorney. I'm well read in certain areas of the law, but what can the American people who know in their gut, Alex, that what's going on is not only wrong, but maybe borderline, if not across the line, illegal, what can actually be done?
Well, we are in a difficult position because, Trump and his political allies have, control of Congress and the White House, obviously, and the executive branch. But there are definitely still things we can do. And there are groups of lawyers who are bringing lawsuits. There have been many, many lawsuits brought to challenge what Musk and Trump have done, and those are working their way through. Some of the decisions a lot of them have fallen in our favor for the time being. There have been, temporary holds on things, but I think the important thing is for average Americans to pay attention, not to weird things on their social media feed, but really to try to get the facts, to listen to people like you and other trusted news sources that, I know today it's hard because, so many people don't trust anything, and that's part of what the other side has sown. But the important thing is to really try to be informed by people that you trust about what is actually going on and to speak up. Let your member of Congress know that you're very concerned about this. Make noise however you can, because I think at the end of the day, I think if Trump and his allies realize that what they're doing is deeply unpopular, I think that could at least slow them down. I don't know whether we can stop everything that they do. We probably can't, but we can slow them down.
Got it.
I think that's really, really important.
So I'll ask the tough question, and I'll ask you a fun question. The lawsuits that are there go forward. They go through what I call the hierarchy of our judicial system, and they reach what we've leaned on for decades, the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court then has an option to either take a case or not. So if they don't take a case, then the lower court's ruling is going to be what the standard ruling is. And the Supreme Court defers and says, we're not going to take the case, which they have the right to do. Right. The lower court's ruling stands. And then what becomes the enforcement if the lower court rules that what Trump and or Musk or any part of the administration has done is unjust according to the lawsuits that have been filed? What if they decide not to adhere to the ruling of the lower court, which would in this case be the federal court, right?
It depends on what set of cases, but it is a federal court, yes.
So what? And go ahead. I'm sorry.
It would be probably an appellate court, unless they appealed it from a district court, which I'm not sure that they would do. But the point is that you're asking me, what do you do if Trump doesn't follow the law?
Right.
And this is kind of unprecedented, and especially on such a broad scale. It would probably result in some sort of a constitutional crisis, meaning that the executive branch would be asserting power that is not permitted in the Constitution, because the judicial branch of government, we have the three branches of government: legislative, judicial, and executive, which is the president. And the executive is supposed to obey the holdings of the judicial branch. And if the executive doesn't do that, we do have a constitutional crisis. It hasn't. I'm not a scholar of constitutional history, so I don't know whether anything like this has ever happened before. If it has, it's been a really long time. And, I think that there are things that could happen. I suppose Congress could try to impeach the president, but that's not going to happen because obviously, the Republicans have a majority in Congress. But it's a crisis. It's a real crisis if he decides he's just not going to obey even the rulings of the judicial branch. He's already stepping all over Congress because he's asking administrative agencies to do things that they actually, are under a statutory mandate to do. Congress passed laws authorizing the various agencies to protect Americans from bank scams and all these other laws, and the agencies are carrying out those laws. And he's basically coming in and saying, no, you can't carry out those laws, and I'm going to hold on to this money that Congress said it should go to this, that, and the other, and I'm not going to let them spend it on things that Congress has already said they should. So you already have the executive branch walking all over Congress, and if you had, Trump and his allies not following the Supreme Court's rulings or another federal court, that would be a crisis. That would just be a constitutional crisis. I don't know where the map goes from there. I really don't. It depends on, maybe Congress taking action. But as I said, that's not likely.
Yeah, and that's the importance.
Sorry to be a downer this morning.
No. Listen, I'm asking you because of your expertise, and I think that sometimes we need to hear the real truth from someone that has your expertise and your knowledge as the senior director. And financial regulation is a big deal because so much of what's happening has everything you just said. It was one dotted line from it's tied to finance, it's tied to money, it's tied to tax dollars,
right.
It's tied to. So that's why you're not. I don't view what you just said as being a downer. It's a slap in the face of reality, and the fix may very well be that the American people have got to your point, stay awake, and this is the fun question I was going to kind of ask you, make some trouble, as John Lewis would say, make some good trouble.
Yeah.
What's your take on that part of this as part of the solution?
Oh, I absolutely think that is the right thing to do. But I think, well, there are two things. First, I wanted to add something to what you just said, and that is, everything is connected to the financial regulatory system, but it's also very much connected to the stability of our financial system as well as to our economy, because the things that he's doing could very well pose very serious risks, not only to our health and all the other things that the other agencies do, but also to the stability of the financial system, to the trust that people have in our markets. Because right now the U.S. has the most liquid and largest markets in the world, financial markets and capital markets. And, if he undermines the laws that keep it that way, then people around the world aren't going to trust our markets, and they're not going to invest, and that means a drain of investment in the U.S., which could be really detrimental. I don't think people understand how much of our treasury, just our treasuries, the treasury bonds that are issued are held by foreigners, by other countries, by China, by all kinds of countries, and that's okay because they're investing in the U.S., and if they pulled that out, our economy would really be harmed by that. But yeah, making noise is our right, and we actually, I believe, have a duty to make noise when we see things that are wrong in our government. And if people can use whatever skills they have to do that. They can call their congressperson. They can write columns for the local newspaper and talk to their neighbors and talk on shows like yours, and really, help get everyone educated about what's going on, so that I think that if there really were, if members of Congress and especially Trump found that, things were deeply unpopular, he might get worried because, he's kind of narcissistic, right? Kind of. He really cares.
There's the troublemaker, Alexandra. There's your troublemaker bona fides coming out. I knew you had that in you. No, your cold truth is important because I think that allows people to go, okay, here's where we are. I'm going to draw a line in the sand and get to work. And that's what I want people to do. That's what I try to do is encourage folks that, we know that it's an uphill fight. It's a big uphill fight. And it's icy. Yep. And then there's no ropes to grab on. But we can't give up. We can't just lay down and let this happen. And that's why the work that you do and the experience that you bring to the conversation is so important. Sometimes that cold slap in the face is what we need to get active and to get out and to be troublemakers and to make some noise. So I appreciate what you're doing, and even more so appreciate your assessment of this and how we can move forward. So what are the things that you're going to be most working on these next few weeks and months?
Well, right now I'm really following what's going on at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. There's been a lot about that in the news. This is the agency that was created after the 2008 financial crisis when it was found that, banks and brokers and other financial actors had really done a lot of predatory lending, a lot of mortgages that they shouldn't have been shopping to people. And so afterwards, the Dodd-Frank bill was passed that created, among many other things, it created the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And what they found is there were all these consumer protection statutes that protected people when they get a mortgage, when they get a car loan, when they whatever. And so they put all of those under one agency, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, or CFPB as we call it. And they basically said this one agency will have its sole purpose is to protect consumers. And over the more than 10 years that the CFPB has been working, it's saved people $21 billion by, they take in complaints and they look at what banks are doing and, all kinds of other institutions, mortgage servicing firms and foreclosure relief services, payday lenders, private student lenders, people who do consumer debt collection or automobile financing. They oversee all these to the extent that they interact with consumers on a financial basis, and they review complaints and they look at what's going on and they provide relief. They have enforcement powers and they provide relief to people. And this is all gone.
Yeah.
It's gone right now because basically they've stopped everything because they've been ordered not to do any work right now. And as a result, when you think about the $21 billion, somebody estimated that that's like $4 million a day that the CFPB is currently every day not being able to return to consumers because they're not able to do their work. We need to get them back to work, and people need to tell their members of Congress, please tell CFPB to tell the president that CFPB needs to get back to work.
And here's why that's the other reason. And thank you for that breakdown. I use this phrase a lot when I have a guest like you on, Alexandra. I stop taking notes and I just listen because what you're saying, what went through my brain is none of what you just described is focused on a red state or a blue state or a red voter or a blue voter or a non-voter.
That's right.
That's focused on because everybody can be affected by those things that the organization has been designed to help protect people from. It's protection from those frauds and abuses. So
that's right.
You're super busy.
And they do. The CFPB has helped people across all 50 states. There's been no red and blue. They've helped you. We have fact sheets on our website. They're about a year out of date now, but they're fact sheets about all the different things that the CFPB has done across all 50 states.
That's amazing.
That's right.
Well, listen, we're going to have you back if you are so inclined to take some time out of your busy morning, because what you do is important because it allows folks to be informed. And I appreciate the hard work that you and the folks at the Center for American Progress have put in. And I'm grateful that you would take some time with us this morning. Let folks know, Alexandra, how they can find you.
At AmericanProgress.org. AmericanProgress.org.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for being with us this morning. We appreciate you taking some time out. We'll have you back to talk more about where we are and kind of let folks know it's okay to be a troublemaker.
Yes. Thanks very much for having me.
All right. Alexandra, have a great day today.
Thanks, you too.
Bye-bye.